Hello everyone, welcome back to the ONLE Podcast. So I'm going to introduce our guests here today. I'm James West, I'm one of the co-founders of ONLE, and I'm here with Kelly West. Hello Kelly, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, so I'm the other founder of ONLE, I'm Kelly West.
And we've also got, well, not a guest, sorry, one of the co-hosts.
I'm Andy from Pulse 8 Media Limited.
So none of us are guests, but we do have a guest. Hello Hattie, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Hatty Fawcett from Focused for Business.
Fantastic. So we're here today specifically to talk about how to develop a business. What are the universally accepted pathways to developing a business? We're going to talk a little bit about coaching, funding, and just various options. So let's just talk about, because the purpose of this podcast is to really talk about, I think a lot of people start a business and there's just this ad hoc approach. I'll do a bit of this, I'll do a bit of that. I think all of us have gone through various iterations of that, and you start to think, actually, perhaps there's a more better format for doing this and various pathways, and there's certainly bias towards some of these approaches as we're going to delve into. So before we go into that, let's set the scene. I'm going to come to you, Andy. How has your business developed?
Well, my business has been going nearly 10 years, so I've seen a lot of development over the years. But from the get-go, I literally left employment with only a couple thousand in the bank, which was my paycheck, and just went for it. And very early on in my business, I realised how quickly I had to go and get customers in order to keep paying my bills. But luckily enough, I had a reputation, so people did follow me. And that's how my business started off, with just £2,000 in the bank. Hope that answers the question.
So where are you at now? What is your development path, I suppose?
So it wasn't until about four years ago I started thinking about a development path. So as I said, like we're coming up to 10 years, and only recently I've employed my first employee 5-6 weeks ago. So I'm a lot more conscious about money coming in, because I'm not just making sure that I got enough money to pay my bills and the business bills, but also my employees. So I'm very aware of it. It's actually changed my mental agility, mental awareness about what I need to be doing, and be a lot more agile as well. So yeah.
My start was similar, very ad hoc for years. I was a freelance journalist. I went into developing websites, and it's only really been since we've met that we've begun developing what I now see as a proper growth business. So on that note, Kelly.
Yeah, I think my path was a bit different. So I was employed for the best part of my working career up until probably 6 years ago when we met. I had a franchise business prior to that for a couple of years, but still very restricted in what you can do. And of course, when we set up our business, very much hand to mouth, same as you, Andy, checking the bank every day, every 2 days, making sure someone's paid. But nightmare, until obviously ONLE came along, and then it's bigger scale, looking at it from a different perspective and planning.
So the path now is what, broadly? What are we doing with ONLE?
Well, with growth. How do we grow? Which channels do we invest more time, money and effort in order to make the bigger picture?
Yeah. So it's really, I think for the three of us, it's about building to the point, building enough demand, brand, building capital so that you can invest back in and start to grow, which I think as businesses mature is a typical approach. Hattie, quite a different approach, and that's why you're here today. So can you give us some details there?
Yeah, I mean, I realised recently I was creating businesses from the age of 8 and raising investment for them.
That's just showing off.
It is really, I know that. But I got distracted. I did what parents expected, had a 15-year corporate career in marketing director at moonpig.com, woolworths.co.uk, that sort of thing. And then I did an MBA at Imperial and entered a business plan competition, which we didn't win, just to square things up a bit. And but I did join a friend I made in that business. It was a friend I made on that competition in his business. And we took his business from 0 to 3 million turnover in 2 years, which was a roller coaster. There were lots of highs, but there were also big lows. And it just rekindled in me that inner entrepreneur that I'd lost sight of since the age of 8. And I love that journey of creating something from nothing. I then ran my own startup. That grew fast too, so I had to learn how to raise investment. So then I did a stint looking after the investments Kelly Hopper made when she was a dragon on the TV show Dragon's Den. So I've seen investment from both sides of the fence, as a founder raising investment and what an angel looks for, a business angel looks for when they back your business. And these days I'm on a mission to make it quicker and easier for people to raise angel investment.
That's why you're here, because we talk about in networking terms that kind of approach doesn't really get talked about. there's ways to get funding, but it's typically loans. Investment doesn't really get talked about. So would you mind just detailing some of the development paths that you've seen? So as a business, what routes could you take to grow a business?
There are lots of different ways, and a very common one is what you've all described, trial and error. Let's see what works, let's see what sticks. And that's powerful. It's iterative. You're learning, you're building on what works and you're chucking what doesn't. And that's powerful from the point of view of raising investment. There are more formal ways. Yes, you could do an MBA, although to be honest, that's more likely to take you into the corporate world than a own business world. More likely, if you want to go down an education route, you're going to do something like an accelerator that is designed. It's an intensive experience, usually maybe 3 months, designed to get you thinking about your business, what makes it work, what doesn't, and growing it in a very quick way so that you can then attract investment and really scale it quickly. That's what investors are looking for.
We'll come back to specifically investment, but I'm just really interested in this idea. There are clearly different routes to get to the same kind of end result. Why is there this bias? Why don't we hear about investment? Why do we hear so much from coaches, etc.? Who's got a view on that?
Well, I'll kick off. I got told right at the start of my business by Sean Toomer, who probably watched this. He said, you want to maintain control of your business, be 100% control. If you're 100% control of your business, you can dictate the future and the pace and work it to your advantage, whether that's a work-life balance or whatever direction you want to go. And obviously, it's always been on the peripherals. There's angel investors. I've had it over years where people have been interested in my business and they say, if we do this, if we do that, we can grow the business, we can have X amount of people, you can have people out on the road. I'm like, that's great, but I don't feel in control. And I think, so anytime like angel investments or investments of anything's come up, I've steered away from it because I'm like, I'm a control freak, and I'm a creative, video production, design, all that side of things. I want to make sure that I'm in charge. And I think that may come from being employed and not having the control direction of my destiny. Yeah. So I've always steered away from it. So personally, I've heard about it, but I don't know much about it, and I might be missing a trick.
Well, is that a myth? Is that the
it's
case?
such a common perception that when you take on investment, you lose control. Some forms of investment, such as bank loan and grant, there's no loss of control really because you're not taking equity in the business. This area of control comes from when you start selling equity, shares in your business. That's what we see them do on Dragon's Den. They're buying shares in someone's business. And when somebody has shares in your business, they can have more of a say. Now, there's some complexities which we don't have to go into, but the more shares somebody owns in short terms, the more say they're going to have in your business. And that's where this lessening of control can sometimes come for a founder because you feel like you've given away some of your business. I think it's more subtle than that. I think it's about the journey you're on. If you want to grow your business quickly and ultimately sell it, make some money and move on and do something else, then taking on external investment, angel investment, VC investment, whatever it's going to be, can be a very powerful way of helping you get to where you want to be. There's also this thing that the people who buy into your business are somehow the baddies. They're going to have bad decisions in your business. Well, that's just...
Well, I think you're right. That's how I see it. I feel like, someone's going to inject, I don't know, 10 or 20, 30,000 pound in it. And then all of a sudden, they're going to be profiteering from all my hard work, all this stuff I've done. And I can see you laughing because that's my naivety behind it.
Yeah, it's really common. And it is. We put it out like the baddies. But they're not. Because generally, when you take on an angel investor, you're going to do your kind of chemistry check too. You're not going to work with somebody you don't get on with. You want somebody in your business usually not just for their money, but often for their skills and what they can bring to the business that makes the business better and stronger. And so, it's more of, I would see it like a marriage. It's an alignment if you get it really right.
We're going to have a meeting after this. Definitely.
You can book a funding clinic.
You touch on a subject there, which... Funny enough, personally for my business, I want to rapidly grow it. In 2-3 years' time, I want, X amount of employees. Can I get that through doing the path I'm already on? Or does it take an angel investor for me to get there quicker?
And probably when we spoke the other day, we've kind of had this on the peripheral for a while, haven't we? And spoke to Hattie the other day and I was like, what would I do with that money anyway? So,
Yeah,
you know,
it
where
isn't-
would it go?
Not everybody needs external investment. It's equally valid to grow your business organically using the revenue that you generate in the business to put back into the business and create more. That's a very, very valid way to grow a business. And yes, it allows you to keep control. And, you know, especially where you've got objectives that perhaps are more like social impact objectives, you know, that may be the best way to grow the business. So you don't have to take investment.
Do you find, and I know you're quite hot on this concept, do you find that people are looking for money because for the wrong reasons, because they want to get an office and a better laptop, and they don't really have a plan as to what we're going to do with that money?
Yeah, and you'll never raise investment if you haven't got a clear plan about how you're going to use the money. Because the first question investors are going to ask you is, what does that money do? What are you going to use it for? And things like office and paying myself a bigger salary are not usually high on an investor's list. Sorry.
You know, anyone listening, anybody who knows me knows that I'm not like that.
So if you were developing your business with a view to get an investment, do you develop your business in a different way than if, say, we've been to this point, just trying to develop it based on supply and demand?
Fundamentally, no, because investors look for something they call traction, which is really, I call it an equation. That if they want to know that you've got the right products and services, which is what you've been developing as good business owners, you'll have been working out what is the right set of products. They want to know you've got customers. Again, if you're a good business owner, you'll have been doing that. You'll have been attracting customers to generate revenue in your business. And then the third piece they want is this marketing machine, the ability to show that you know how to get more customers quickly because you've got a good, proven marketing machine that you can turn on and turn off as required.
This is where networking comes in, doesn't it? Watch Kelly talk about how you get to that point using networking, because it might not seem an obvious connection.
No, and I think, you know, if you're a seasoned networker, you'll get that quite quickly. A networking group, or, you know, your sphere of network is a great test bed, isn't it? To go to those
Really
other
is.
business owners and say, look, do you like what I do? Can you see any flaws? Give me some honest feedback.
And if you can be really honest with people, sometimes networking you kind of hide behind, oh yeah,
Exactly.
everything's rosy. But if you build good, strong relationships through your networking groups, then actually you can be very honest and you can say, look, I've tried this, it didn't work. Could you give me some advice? Could you tell me what you're doing? Could you give me some feedback? And that's iterative, isn't it? That is for me the gold dust of business.
Absolutely.
People go to networking, and Siobhan Fox is a great example of this. People go to networking normally because they think they've got a fully formed proposition and they're going to present it to that group of people and it's going to sell. Siobhan Fox, Reveal Marketing, hi Siobhan, her approach is really different. She came to one of our networking groups. She used to work for Amazon. She was marketing for Amazon, so she knows marketing inside out. She took the view that I'm going to networking because I'm going to try and establish what people need. So rather than have a fully fledged offering, she came to networking. Simple, brilliant question. She just said to people, tell me how you feel about marketing. And she said she spent a year basically then developing her proposition based upon that feedback. That, for me, is how you establish demand for a product. You've seen this with podcasting. You came into networking, your offering was very different.
Yeah, so I was on that pivoting moment when I joined ONLE and got really serious into networking. I found my clan or tribe, so I felt really comfortable. But I started my business as a graphic designer, web design, because that's what I trained in. And then 5 years ago, when I got a commercial drone license, and I thought, oh, this is amazing, and I could transfer those skills. But when I went into networking, I was a bit like, which direction am I going to go? Am I going to stand up? I've got 1 minute or however long, and am I going to stand up and say, I do web design, graphic design, animation, videos, drone. Oh my God.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, master of none, and I hated that term. So I made a decision to go to videos. But through what you're saying, James, is that I discovered through talking to people, finding out where their pain points are in their marketing, I was able to formulate the podcast service, which is, it's a way of not being direct about what you do, and then you have breakout videos from it. But that was developed off James, and I'll give you the credit here. James came to me and said, I want to do podcasts. I'm like, don't think it's going to be too far out of my remit of what I can do. Did all the investigation and thought, yeah, that's a good service. And then from that, it grew.
You told me you'd done thousands of them.
Thousands of them. Yeah, well, that's, you've got to be confident about it. It's not, this is proof in the pudding, so you can't criticise me. But, from listening to the market, I came up with this idea, this new service, like Siobhan does, like anybody does. But I think, from growing a business investment, it's like, I just don't have a clue about it whatsoever. So,
but in fact, you've done all the right things, because what an investor will look at is, so what is the demand? How well are you meeting that demand? Have you done any research? And what you've all described is a form of market research. It's an informal form, but it is a form of market research. And then you've listened to what your customers said. You've developed your products accordingly so your customers love them. And then that is the essence of what unlocks investment.
Hattie, you're basically telling us your businesses are investable, and somebody might want to go, here's $1 million, show me a plan, off we go.
So there's two sides.
You're
absolutely right. You're two sides to it. You've got to prove you've got something, which you've all done. So yes, tick, you've got your investable step one. Step two is you've got to show an investor how you're going to use their money to grow your business.
And not increase my wage or buy premises.
Or buy shiny new offices.
Yeah. That's me out then.
That for me is the real kind of light bulb moment, because all of us know what we'd do if we had loads of money come and land on our feet. But in terms of putting that into the business, I think we'd really struggle to know where we'd put a big bulk of money.
Well, we're still in building mode, aren't we? So we're working out, right, there's a lot of underpinnings to growing a large networking group, and where are we going to spend money? And we're trying different things, because we know once we've got, right, we've spent this amount on marketing, this is then the end result of that marketing. If we then increase that marketing spend, realistically, we'll grow. So it's timing, is it? Is that a lot?
I think it is timing, partly. There comes a point in the development of your business where you've got your products, you've got your first customers, you know what your base marketing is, but you really want to scale it. And so it's something about timing and something about your ambition.
Yeah.
And if you want to grow fast, or you've got an element of your business that needs heavy investment to make you realise, if you're building something techie, for example, then you may need a cash injection to allow you to do it.
Wow, that's interesting, because that brings me on to a point. So
stop turning this into a coaching session with Hattie that you're getting for free.
That's all right. I'm going to send him the bill afterwards.
I'm making the most of it. But I'm now realising, in fact, yes, I've had investment, because obviously the government gave out these bounce back loans, which enabled me to have a nice cushion there to take on my first employee without stressing about, right, I'm now paying my first employee. So that's an investment.
Well done you for seeing that as the opportunity, because a lot of people
that's what you're talking about, that pivoting moment. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well
Good
done.
point. So, knowing what we know now about developing a business, where is the best place to start? Where do people typically start? So I'm going to pick on things like branding, marketing, culture. I'll just throw those words out. Where should you start? Or is it just establishing demand? Does anyone want to buy this thing?
Well, for me, most people that know us will know brand and culture, the two most important things. Which came first? I know chicken and egg, I suppose. But it depends on your industry, doesn't it? If there's similar products out there, but you're just trying to be better and doing it in a better way, you've kind of had a lot of that market research done, haven't you? And you can look at the competitors. I think if you're trying to do something completely new, surely it has to be the supply and demand. You need to be doing that market research first to see if it's a viable product.
Well, we knew there was demand for networking. So we'd been doing market research for donkey's years.
We're not reinventing the wheel, we're just perfecting the art of what we do, aren't we?
Why the brand, though, for people that don't perhaps get why that's so important?
Well, I think for us, it heavily relied on us at the beginning, and only was James and Kelly, and it was people we knew, and it was our network. That quickly outgrew us, and it became Only. James and Kelly work for Only, they founded Only. So I think when you get out of that initial sphere, your brand has to represent you and what you believe in.
Yeah, because it couldn't ever have grown if it was just reliant on
And people have to resonate with it, don't they? They have to like the look of it, they have to believe in what you stand for, the culture.
For me, the marketing and the brand is often kind of the shortcut to showing why you're different.
Yes.
Because you may not always have the time to go through your long list of USPs, which I'm sure you've got, But that brand is the shortcut for it. And so it's a flag waving, hello, here we are. Sit up, take notice.
I think people start with the marketing without really establishing demand, and also not really knowing what their proposition is, because marketing, let's be honest, we're talking about social media because it's so visible. People think, I need to get on there and I need to be shouting about what I'm doing, and they've not. You're just generic unless you've done that underpinning work.
I really agree with you that for most people, marketing is a second stage. If you haven't got clear about what the problem is you're solving for your customers, and that you've developed that product in conjunction with customers so that you know your product or your service really does solve that problem, not you think it does, which is different. Then you're not out of the starting blocks, and all the rest, marketing, brand, culture, all those things, which I do believe in and are really strong, but they're icing on the cake if you can't get the fundamentals right.
Yeah. We found that, didn't we? Once we defined the culture, it was already there, by the way. Every business has got a culture, hasn't it? Once we defined it, then we started working out who the ideal audience is, etc. Then the marketing wrote itself. Because we had principles, we had values. That's where we became the network for people that like people, because we understood what it was. I always hear alarm bells ringing when people say, what do I write about on social media? Go back to the drawing board, work out this stuff, and then it becomes much easier. What's your view, Andy?
My view is a very practical view, because being from a graphic design background originally, it was like, somebody's come up with an idea for a business. It's not my place to tell them, by the way, I don't think you're going to be successful. I've still got experience to know whether it will be or not over the years. But the first thing is, like, from a designer's point of view, right, we've got to design a logo, design a brand, website. I think that's pinnacle right at the start, because as soon as you start talking to anybody, they're going to go to your website. So that's from a practical point of view. So you've got to start with something somewhere. And through years of building websites, they're never perfect. They grow. So just like your business grows, I think you've got to start with something, and you may believe it's solving a problem. It won't be until you got the website together, got some brand together, got some culture together, gone out marketing. Then you'll realise you hit the nail on the head, or you need to adapt it or start again. I've seen so many businesses do that from a practical point of view. You've got to have a point of call for these people to go to straight off. It's not social media. It's actually still your website, because that is the tick box you put the effort in.
What do you say to those people, though? Because we get this. We also build websites, if we haven't said that before. But when they come to you and they think, if I build a website, this is what I sell, it will start selling. That's tricky, isn't it? 'Cause
no, it won't start selling because you've got to do everything else. Unfortunately, everything is linked. You do everything's linked. So, for example, I'll give you an example. I won't name names or anything. A website I built a number of years ago. No, I can't. I might get in trouble. Website I built years ago. I told the company, you've got to lead people to it. If you're not going to do SEO, if you're not going to do AdWords, if you're not going to do social media, how are you going to tell people? It's like building a house and putting it in the middle of a field with no path to it. It's the same with your business. You've got to have these multiple points of entry, but you need to start somewhere. So you start off with your logo, you start off with your website, and then you go network and start talking to businesses.
Totally agree, but it's not a business until you get at least your first customer.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, and that is so true, and that's something a lot of people forget. It's great having a good idea. We've all had them, haven't we? We've all woken up in the morning and thought, this is a brilliant idea, and you speak to your other half and they say, that's rubbish.
So to use your analogy, they've got to open the garden gate. It's not enough having the road coming to the gate. They've got to open the gate and come in and buy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But if you haven't, the build it and they will come and thing is the bit that's misleading, isn't it? Because just because you think it's a great idea, which again comes back to networking, because we often get people, don't we, that come in and they think, here we go. And then how many other people are already doing the same thing, positioning it the same way?
Yeah, I mean, none of us are going to come up with a completely unique idea.
I think I have.
One in a million. It's how you portray it, isn't it? It's how you make it yours. And the network, right from the beginning of your business, as you were saying, Andy, use it. to ask people, be authentic and if you're in the right tribe and you're with the right people, they will be truthful with you. And I think once you're then moving into the next stage and you're looking at your marketing and your branding, you've got those people with you as well. And you've used them along the journey, haven't you? So it's twofold, really.
I think that there's something else for any person who starts a business. Obviously, you mentioned a business is only when you get your first customer. But you've got to be adaptable. You got to realise if something doesn't work, to change it.
Yeah.
But also, I've seen of late with a number of businesses, they're forever adapting and changing their business. And you're like, who are you now? Are you doing that now? It's the same service, but you called it something different. And it's a bit like, right, you can be over-influenced in networking sometimes. And you got to stand back and ultimately make that decision and stand your ground and go, this is my business. And this is what I do. If you carry on, you've got to adapt your business with changing times, but at some point you've got to stop and go, this is what I'm doing. Otherwise, you're going to confuse everyone.
You can't please everyone,
No.
is the point. You've just got to find the people that will like
Which goes right back to that initial conversation about research and putting it out there. What are your problems? What needs solving? And developing it with customers along the way. Take them with you on that development process.
Absolutely.
Then it doesn't feel quite like a big change, or it might not feel like a change because you're just responding to what your customers are saying. Responding to every Tom, Dick and Harry, you're going to be drawn all over the place. But if you listen to your customers and respond to them, you should be able to monetize it and indeed attract investment.
And use, for us, we've got a core group of members that have been with us from very early on that we will go to and talk about ideas. So use your best customers for that. Bounce your new ideas off of them because they're loyal to you anyway and they know about you.
You've got to look outside your network. I'm thinking I worked for a software company and they were trying to market enterprise software. And they would tell me, and my customers are really happy and they love what we do, but I'm looking at the market from an external view, and I'm finding software suppliers that are giving their software away for free, saying they've just got ads on it, exactly the same functionality, and they're wondering why none of their marketing's working because someone is giving it away for free. So yes, listen to your network, but it's hard, isn't it? I think that's what you realise. You've got to be looking in lots of different directions
You can go round and round in circles.
Yeah.
But
It's awareness.
Yeah, it's awareness. Ultimately, you made the biggest step. You've come up with an idea. You've registered the business name, and you're off the starting block.
Any final thoughts from anyone?
I think hearing what everyone said is whatever you do, make sure you enjoy the journey of building it. It isn't just building this business to get to an endpoint. If we spend so many hours, days, weeks in working in our businesses and hopefully enjoying it. If you don't enjoy the journey, what is the point?
Great point to end on. Thank you, Hatty. So that's been the ONLE Podcast. Thank you for listening or watching. If you like what you've heard today, please subscribe and we'll see you again for the next episode.